In business, the arts, and even science, it's common to defraud fame and fortune through falsification. Ernst Haeckel, for example, fooled everyone with a fake embryological drawing that had existed in textbooks for over 100 years. So, could something similar happen to the world-famous, the Great Pyramid of Giza? It is now believed that the first pyramid in the world was the Step Pyramid of Djoser. Then, after continuous development and changes, it finally evolved into the cone-angle-shaped pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It is lined with smooth limestone, which allows the pyramids to glisten in the sun. However, there is a doubt here. If the construction technology of the pyramids is gradually improving, why are the other pyramids after the most spectacular, the Great Pyramid of Giza, all far inferior to it? In addition, the Harvard University Archaeological Task Force, led by the famous archaeologist George Andrew Reisner, found that the Pyramid of Djoser was initially made of mud bricks. However, after that, it was soon broken. Moreover, they found that the mud bricks had been painted white, as if they were deliberately imitating white limestone. So, could the Pyramid of Djoser not be the first pyramid? Why did people 5,000 years ago have such a whimsical idea of building pyramids? Could it be that they saw an earlier ancient pyramid and deliberately copied it? If the answer is yes, where is this ancient pyramid? Zecharia Sitchin has a bold guess about this. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the most complex to design and the most difficult to build, may be the first pyramid in Egypt. However, now everyone knows that it was built by the later Pharaoh Kufu. So how could it be the first pyramid? So then, the question is, was it built by Kufu? First, there is a doubt that the three pyramids of the Giza pyramid complex have no hieroglyphic inscriptions. As historian James Bonwick wrote in his book Pyramid Facts and Fancies to the effect, the Egyptians left behind for such a magnificent building without leaving any hieroglyphic description. Who can clearly explain the reasoning? So, Sitchin thinks the reason may be straightforward because these pyramids are likely to have been built before the appearance of hieroglyphics. In other words, these pyramids were not built by the Egyptians. Why do we think the Great Pyramid of Giza is the pyramid of Pharaoh Kufu? The only valid evidence is that the ancient Greek historian Herodotus calculated in his writings that 100,000 slaves would have taken 30 years to build the Great Pyramid. But there is evidence that Pharaoh Khufu's reign was only up to 23 years. Then how is it possible to build a pyramid that took 30 years? If these reasons are far-fetched, then one of the most potent pieces of evidence is the stone tablet. In the 1850s, the very famous archaeologist Auguste Mariette discovered a stele in the ruins of a temple near the Great Pyramid. According to the content of the text, it is a monument that Khufu erected for himself because he rebuilt the temple of the goddesses. The inscription says, "Khufu, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, prayed to the god Horus to grant him eternal life, and as a result, he was given life." More importantly, another description says, "He found the house of Isis, the mistress of the pyramid, next to the Great Sphinx of Giza." Based on this inscription, it is almost sure that the Great Pyramid existed before Khufu appeared, and it belonged to the goddess Isis, not Khufu. Also, the Great Sphinx of Giza was already there. The inscription pointed out the exact location of the Great Sphinx of Giza and recorded that lightning strikes destroyed it. We can still see that trace. However, perhaps because of reluctance to change the established theory about the Great Pyramid of Giza, the stele was pronounced forged. Because someone found the red symbol on the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, the characters are thought to have been carved by the stonemasons who built the pyramids, and no tomb robbers broke into the king's chamber until excavations began in 1837. So these symbols should be real. Therefore, although the stele was pronounced a forgery, it is still hidden in a museum in Cairo. So, what exactly does the king's chamber find the red symbol? The British Egyptologist Howard Weiss discovered this similar red symbol in Campbell's chamber before exploring the Great Pyramid. Then, after months of manual excavation of the Great Pyramid, Weiss finally lost his patience, so he used explosives. On March 30, 1837, Weiss finally entered a newly discovered chamber in the pyramid. They found that the room had never been broken into, and that there was an even layer of black deposits on the floor, clearly marked with their footprints. However, they found nothing in this room. There are no sarcophagi, no mummies, or gold or silver treasures. Then, he quickly reported the new findings to the British consulate. So in the evening of the same day, 2 professionals were arranged to conduct some necessary tests on the new findings in the room. In the process, they discovered the mysterious red symbol. But here's where it gets weird. Weiss's team was the first to enter the room. How could they have missed such an important discovery? Subsequently, the British and Austrian consuls inspected the site and asked to copy the newly discovered red symbol. However, Weiss only promised to copy the red symbol of Campbell's chamber first. As for the symbol of the Great Pyramid, you have to wait a little longer. It is a symbol from thousands of years ago. Therefore, copying it earlier is the most suitable to prevent it from being damaged in the future. But why would Weiss say no? Is there any secret in it? Next, with the help of explosives, Weiss's team found another room above the king's chamber. Weiss named it Nelson's chamber. Unfortunately, there is also an empty room, and some red symbols have also been found. But this time, they copied the red symbols after only 2 days. In the days that followed, Weiss discovered a new chamber above Nelson's chamber, which he named Lady Arbuthnot's chamber. And they claimed to have found more red symbols in this room. But strangely enough, there is no mention of these red symbols in Weiss's diary. On May 18 of the same year, Dr. Varney applied to Weiss to give a copy of the red symbols found in the Great Pyramid to an Egyptologist specializing in deciphering royal names, so that the symbols could be confirmed earlier. Does it record the owner of the pyramid? But very surprisingly, Weiss rejected his request outright. After that, Weiss's team found another room and a royal stele engraved with the owner of the pyramid, that is, Pharaoh Kufu. Although the British Museum commented positively on the copies of these symbols that Weiss and the others found, the very long analysis confirmed Weiss's discovery. The name on the stele is indeed Khufu, or another spelling of Khufu. However, British Egyptologist and antiquary Samuel Birch wrote some doubts in his book. First, the writing of the texts looks a lot like the writing that emerged centuries after Khufu's death. Moreover, the writing order of the text in the uppermost room is so strange that even experts like Birch are puzzled here. For example, the nice and elegant symbol in early hieroglyphics is used as a number here and speculated to mean the 8th year. In addition, the text on the most important royal stele is the same. Birch said that the usage of the title on the royal stele is similar to the hieroglyph for Pharaoh Amasis II. However, it is not easy to understand that the reign of Amasis II was in the 6th century BC, over 2,000 years after Khufu's death. No matter who drew those red symbols, it can be seen from the way of writing, the characteristics and usage of the characters that they are not the characters of Khufu's era, but the characters of some later periods, and the writers do not seem to be very professional. Many symbols in the hieroglyphs are unclear, some are incomplete, and there are even some errors and completely unknown marks. Birch also pointed out that the hieroglyph for the 2 letters KH at the beginning of Khufu should be a circle resembling a sieve. The sign of the sun god Ra is a dot in the middle of a circle. The disk of the sun god should be a solid circle or a hollow circle. But in the royal inscription, Khufu's name is never spelled correctly. And very coincidentally, the study of Egyptian hieroglyphs was not very deep then, and the only reference one could find was the book Materia Hieroglyphica by John Gardner Wilkinson. The book was published 9 years before Weiss entered Egypt. So it happened that the book's author later admitted that he made the same mistake in the book as on the stele. So does this mean that Weiss faked it all with the wrong hieroglyph? You might say that if Vice faked, the handwriting should be very fresh. You should be able to see it at a glance, right? But as it happens, this red paint is made from red ochre that is still used by the Arabs today. And it's hard to tell the difference between the old and the new. The marks made yesterday and 3,000 years ago are hard to tell apart. So here we have to go back to the question, was the Great Pyramid of Giza built by Khufu? Is it the ancient pyramid that the pharaohs have been imitating? Is it the evidence left by the ancient aliens, the Anunnaki? We still don't know.